Apartment 6A watches you sleep and then replaces you psychological drama mystery. Everyone believed that the building was just like any other. Plain, aging, indifferent. Rows of balconies stacked like shoeboxes, laundry fluttering in the breeze, and the occasional aroma of someone's dinner wafting through cracked windows. But for me, that building always felt like it was hiding something, especially when it came to apartment 60A. It had stood empty for years, or so we were told. No one ever saw anyone go in or out, yet strange things always seemed to happen around it. Lights flickering when the power was steady, distant humming on the stairwell at night, and once a mailman quit on the spot after walking past it. I didn't think much of it at the time. Urban legends, old wiring, but everything changed the night I moved in across the hall. I wasn't supposed to end up there. My last lease ended abruptly when the landlord decided to sell, and I needed somewhere fast, cheap, and with flexible conditions. The listing for 60B looked suspiciously good, fully furnished, bills included, no deposit. I called, signed the contract online, and picked up the keys from an old woman who wouldn't look me in the eye. "Don't knock next door," she said, handing them over with a tremble. I laughed awkwardly, thinking she was joking. But when I stepped into 6B, a chill ran through me. It wasn't just the drafty window or the faulty radiator. It was the silence, the kind that feels full, like something is listening. I told myself it was nerves. New places always feel weird at first. That night I unpacked, poured myself a drink, and flopped onto the couch. The walls were thin. I could hear the elevator cables groaning down the hall and the faint buzz of TVs from other apartments. But what stood out was the occasional creak from 6A. I froze every time. Flight ones, pacing. Then, silence. I pressed my ear to the wall. Nothing. I told myself it was the building settling. But when it happened again the next night, and the next, I began to question everything. No one answered the door at 6A. No one received mail. Yet exactly 2:12 a.m., the sounds began. Always footsteps, a dragging sound like cloth on tile, and a click, click, click like fingernails on wood. I barely slept. I considered moving, but I just signed the lease and had nowhere else to go. I told my friend Lena about it during a phone call. She laughed, called it a classic haunted hallway story. She offered to stay over one night, and I accepted just to prove I wasn't losing it. She arrived with snacks, wine, and an oversized hoodie, all jokes and teasing. We settled in to watch something on Netflix, the sounds from 6A temporarily forgotten. But then 2:12 a.m. rolled around, and everything changed. First came the footsteps. Lena looked up, laughing at first, until the dragging sound followed. We muted the TV. The sound moved along the wall, slow, deliberate. Lena's face drained of color. "Someone's definitely in there," she whispered. I nodded. The click-click came next, and then something new, a soft hum, a melody, childlike and haunting. Lena bolted upright. "We need to see this." I tried to stop her, but she was already cracking open my front door. The hallway was dark, too dark. The bulbs that usually glowed weakly overhead were out, but the door to 6I was ajar, just a crack. Enough to see that something was lit inside. Lena moved toward it, her phone flashlight on. I followed, heart in my throat. She knocked once, then twice. Nothing. She looked back at me, shrugged, and pushed it open. The apartment was empty. No furniture, no curtains, no dust even. Just a pristine room with bare walls and a single wooden rocking chair facing the window. It moved slightly, like it had just been occupied. The air was cold. Lena stepped in, scanned with her phone light, and frowned. "There's nothing here," she started to say, but stopped. On the floor was a circle of ash. Symbols drawn in chalk around it, smudged, like something had been erased in haste. At the center, a small box, wooden ornate. She bent to touch it. "Don't," I hissed, but she had already lifted the lid. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. An old man smiling, his eyes gouged out with something sharp, the photo stained at the edges. On the back, written in red ink, "He watched too long. Don't be next." Lena dropped the box and the air shifted. The light in the hallway flickered back on. The door to 6A slammed shut behind us. We scrambled to it, pulling, screaming. But it wouldn't budge. Then the chair creaked, once, twice, slowly turning toward us. No one sat in it, but the pressure on the seat sank downward, indenting as if someone had just sat. The hum returned, louder, from behind us. We spun around. No one there, but the wall behind the chair now had something smeared across it. Charcoal marks, forming letters. "You weren't invited." Lena was crying now, clawing at the door. I grabbed her arm, and we both yanked. Finally, it opened. We stumbled into the hall, collapsing outside, gasping. The light overhead blew out with a pop. We didn't sleep that night. By morning, the door to 6A was shut again, locked. No signs anyone had entered. I tried to explain it to the landlord, but he only stared, silent. When I mentioned the photo, he paled and hung up. Lena never came back, said the place gave her nightmares. I couldn't afford to leave yet, but something changed. Every night, the sounds got closer. Now they're in the walls, the floorboards, even the bathroom mirror once. And the worst part? Last night, I found a Polaroid on my pillow. It was me sleeping, and on the back in that same red ink. Almost time. The day after the photograph appeared on my pillow, I stripped the bed down to the mattress, checked every drawer, cupboard, and vent in the apartment, and even unscrewed the back of the picture frames, convinced that someone was hiding inside my home or had broken in while I was out. But the locks were untouched, the windows sealed, and the front door chain was still latched from the inside. I kept thinking about that photo. How close it had been to my face, how intimate the angle was, as though the person behind the lens was standing inches from me, breathing the same air. I bought new locks, changed the code to the building door, even propped a chair beneath the doorknob like I'd seen in old movies. But none of it made me feel safer, especially because the next night it happened again. A new Polaroid, this time of me brushing my teeth. I stared into the image, searching for a shadow, a reflection, anything. But it was just me, mid-motion, the toothpaste a blur, my face half turned, unaware of being watched. I knew I hadn't taken it. And then I realized something else. Each of these photos, the one of me sleeping and now this, were not just captured inside my apartment. They were from angles I couldn't explain, as if someone had created new vantage points that didn't physically exist. Corners that shouldn't exist. I stopped sleeping. Caffeine replaced food. My hands trembled constantly. My phone stayed in my pocket all day, set to record audio just in case something happened. I didn't care if I looked insane. I recorded hours of silence, hoping I was wrong. But on the third night, the playback caught something. A whisper. Too faint to make out, but definitely there, crawling beneath the white noise like a worm under skin. I played it back dozens of times, running it through filters, increasing the gain, trying to isolate the syllables. Eventually, I caught it. Just one word. Repeated, slow, mournful. Stay. I wanted out. I tried to break the lease, but no one picked up at the agency. The website was gone. Even the building didn't show up on rental directories anymore. I asked neighbors about the landlord, but no one remembered his name. Some said he died. Others said he never existed. It was like the entire thing was collapsing in on itself, swallowing reality piece by piece. I went to the police. Showed them the photos, the recordings. They nodded politely, took my statement, and said they'd send someone out. No one ever came. That night, I took a sleeping pill and passed out for the first time in days. And that's when I saw her. A girl, no older than 10, standing at the foot of my bed. She didn't speak. Her eyes were covered by a strip of black cloth, her hands clasped behind her back. She tilted her head slowly, almost curiously, like a bird observing prey. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. She stepped closer. I felt the mattress dip. She leaned in. "You're still awake," she whispered. Her breath was cold, sweet, like rotting fruit. I bolted upright, drenched in sweat, panting. The room was dark, the pill bottle empty on the nightstand. I told myself it was a dream. A hallucination. But then I looked down at the bed, and the sheets had a single indentation where she'd stood. 2 small feet pressed into the fabric. From that moment, I didn't just want to leave. I needed to. I began packing, grabbing essentials, tossing clothes into garbage bags. But when I tried the front door, it wouldn't open. The key turned, the latch clicked, but it refused to budge. I kicked it, slamming nothing. The windows were the same, welded shut. I smashed one with a lamp, but behind the broken glass was brick, as if someone had sealed the outside. I ran to the balcony, tried to yell down, but there was no one. No street, no noise. Just a blank, gray void beyond the edge. It was like the world had been cut out around me. I ran to the mirror, needing to see myself, to ground myself in something real. But what I saw made me stumble backward. My reflection wasn't mine. It mimicked my movements, yes. But it was delayed just slightly, a beat behind, and its eyes weren't following mine. They stared over my shoulder. I turned, nothing. But when I turned back, the reflection was smiling. I wasn't. That was the moment I stopped trusting anything in that apartment. Walls can lie. Mirrors can trap. Time can distort. I started marking the days on the wall with lipstick, the only thing that left a lasting color. But then I'd wake up and find half the marks gone. Sometimes more. Sometimes there'd be extra ones I didn't make. I couldn't tell how long I'd been there. The apartment didn't let me eat anymore. Every time I cooked, the food spoiled instantly. Mold on toast. Milk curdled in the fridge. Even water came out dark, thick like oil. But I still wasn't dying. I just remained, suspended, trapped, observed. Then, one evening, I found the door to 6A open again, just slightly. I didn't want to go near it, but the air had shifted. My own apartment felt tighter, more suffocating. I crossed the hall, shaking, every step a battle against the instinct to run. Inside 6A, the rocking chair was gone. So was the ash circle. In its place stood a large mirror, cracked at the top corner, reaching from floor to ceiling. And in the reflection, my apartment, not the hallway, not 6A, just 60B from a different angle as though I were watching it through a security feed. I stepped, collection changed. Now it showed me, standing in front of the mirror, but behind me a shape. The girl, blindfolded, closer this time. I turned. Nothing, looked back. She was now standing right behind my reflection. Her mouth moved. No sound. I reached toward the glass, fingers trembling. As they touched the surface, it rippled like water. I pulled back, but something on the other side didn't. My reflection's hand kept moving forward, out of sync. Then, it placed its hand on the inside of the glass, matching mine. Except its palm was covered in deep, bloody cuts, symbols carved into the skin. Its smile widened, and then it mouthed 3 words. "Let me in." I screamed and stumbled back. The door to 6A slammed shut behind me. I ran. I didn't stop running until I hit the stairwell. But the stairs were gone. Just a loop. Floor 6 leading to floor 6 leading to floor 6. The numbers never changed. I ran for hours. Screamed until my throat bled. Eventually, I returned to 6B. Where else could I go? Inside, another photo on the bed. Me in 6A, reaching toward the mirror. But the caption this time said, "You're already inside." That night, I tried something desperate. I set up my phone to record video while I slept, perched on a shelf, wide angle. I took another pill, and in the morning, I watched the footage. It started fine, me tossing, turning, nothing strange, until around 12, a figure stepped out of the closet. The girl, blindfold still on, she walked to the bed, stood there for a long time. Then, from the edge of the frame, something else crawled into view. My reflection, its skin was pale, eyes completely black, teeth too many, too sharp. It leaned down over me and whispered something in my ear. I watched as my sleeping self twitched, then smiled. Not a peaceful smile, a knowing one. The reflection turned to face the camera and raised a finger to its lips. Sheesh. Then the video ended, corrupted. I deleted it. But the damage was done. Because now sometimes I catch myself smiling for no reason. And when I look into the mirror, I think I see someone else staring back. Someone waiting, someone patient. The girl. She's always near, watching, humming. I hear her in the pipes, in the static, in the silence. I've stopped trying to escape, because I think maybe I never came here at all. Maybe I've always been here. Maybe this apartment was never a place. Maybe it's a copy, a trap, a mirror world that pulled me through when I looked too close. And now someone else is wearing my skin, walking in the real world, smiling at people I love. And me, here, in apartment 6A, or 6B, or whatever this place calls itself now. Just one more face in the glass, waiting for someone else to knock. I used to believe madness had a shape. Wild eyes, frantic gestures, screaming into empty rooms. But now I know it's quieter. Madness is the realization that no one believes you, even when the evidence is staring back at them through photographs you didn't take, recordings you didn't make, and dreams you didn't dream alone. I stopped reaching out. No one answered anyway. My phone died weeks ago. Or maybe days, it's hard to say. The charger cable melted in my hand one morning, hissing like it was alive. The apartment doesn't want me calling for help anymore. It's closed the final door. I know because I tried to write a note, a long explanation in case someone ever found me. But the ink disappeared before it dried. I even carved messages into the wall with a broken fork, and each morning the plaster was smooth again, like I'd never touched it. The apartment heals itself like a wound refusing to scar. I began to catalog the changes, not out of hope, but to hold on to what little logic I had left. Every night, the layout of the place shifts slightly. A chair moves 6 inches to the left. A doorframe becomes narrower. The bathroom mirror gains another crack. The pictures on the wall, ones I never hung, update themselves. The latest one showed my mother sitting on our childhood couch, except her eyes were solid black, and she was pointing at something just out of frame. The caption below read, "She knows now." When I blinked, the picture was gone, only dust where it had hung. The hallway, too, isn't real anymore. I tried exiting again, walking slowly, counting my steps. 32 to the stairs, 33, 34. Then I saw it, a figure down the corridor, unmoving. I couldn't make out their face, only that they were tall, rigid, arms too long for their frame. I froze. Took a step back, so did they. In perfect sync, I lunged forward suddenly, but the figure didn't react. That's when I realized it wasn't mimicking me. It was anticipating, learning. I ran back to the apartment, slammed the door, and locked every bolt. I wedged a chair beneath the knob, turned every light on. But when I looked outside, the hallway was gone, replaced by darkness. Not the absence of light, but something thicker, denser. A curtain of black, and behind it breathing. I heard it, deep and wet, like lungs full of water. The girl hasn't returned in days, but I feel her constantly. She's not blind. Not anymore. She only wore the blindfold to pretend, to play the part. But now she sees everything, especially me. I tried to sleep once fully clothed, shoes on, ready to flee if needed, but I woke to find my shoes missing, my feet soaked in red water, and my hands covered in ash. The ash from the circle in 6A. I don't remember leaving the apartment. I don't remember burning anything, but the stench of smoke clings to my clothes, a sick, oily smoke that smells like old bones. I found a note on the kitchen counter yesterday, written in a looping, elegant script I've never seen. It read, "You've been such a gracious host. May I stay a little longer?" There was no signature, but next to it was a teacup, ceramic, chipped, filled with dark liquid. Something swam inside it. I didn't drink it. I won't, but I haven't touched it either. The cup won't let me. Every time I try, my hand freezes mid-air, like my body's not mine anymore. That's the worst part, the subtle erosion of autonomy. Not being thrown into darkness, but slowly guided there by a hand you didn't notice resting on your shoulder. Some nights, I hear voices. Not whispers now. Clear, articulate voices calling out from different rooms. Familiar tones. My father's laugh. My best friend crying. A child I don't know singing a lullaby I somehow remember. They all say the same thing eventually. Come see. I resist. I've learned what see means in this place. It means giving yourself to whatever watches from the corners, feeding it with your attention, your fear, your memories. That's how it grows. That's how it stays real. But it's getting harder to ignore. The walls bleed now. Thin lines at first, trickling down from the ceiling like sweat. But one morning I woke to find an entire word spelled out in crimson, welcome. I tried painting over it. The paint bubbled, peeled, and beneath it the word remained, now larger, more jagged. Sometimes I think about Lena. I wonder if she ever told anyone. If she left the city, blocked me, forgot. Maybe that's best. I wouldn't want her caught in this trap, because it is a trap, not just a haunted apartment, not just some cursed lease. This place chooses people, feeds on them, changes them. I know because my reflection talks to me now. Not every night, but often enough. It doesn't need a mirror anymore. Sometimes I catch it in the oven glass, in puddles, even in my spoon. Always smiling, always speaking in my voice, telling me things I don't remember doing. Places I didn't go, lies I didn't tell. But the worst part, some of it's true, or becomes true. I found a notebook yesterday, one I never bought. Its pages are filled with handwriting identical to mine, journal entries, confessions, dozens of pages, descriptions of rituals, names I don't recognize, symbols I vaguely remember seeing in 6A. One entry chilled me. He finally agreed. The trade has begun. One soul for another. Balance must be kept. I dropped the book, burned it in the sink. But when I turned back around, it was on the table again, pristine. Open to the last page, blank. A pen beside it, like it was waiting. I didn't touch it again. But at night, I hear scribbling, the sound of pages turning. I know it's writing itself. Or worse, something's using my hand while I sleep. I've considered ending it. Jumping from the balcony, smashing my way through the wall. But I don't think the building is connected to our world anymore. I don't think falling would take me anywhere. Just deeper. The mail slot hissed open today. First time in weeks. An envelope slid through, no return address. Inside was a single photograph, grainy, black and white. It showed me Ling, eyes closed, surrounded by dozens of other kneeling figures, all identical, all me. In a circle. In the middle, the girl stood smiling, no blindfold. No eyes, just hollow sockets filled with moving black. On the back of the photo, soon. I tore it up, burned the pieces. But I know it doesn't matter. The photo wasn't for me. It was for what's coming. I heard knocking last night. Not on the door, but on the ceiling. Rhythmic, slow, like someone crawling in the space above. I don't think there's any crawl space. I've never seen access. But the noise moved. Overhead, then down the walls, then under the floor. Like it was searching, or circling. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then I felt it tap on the bottom of my mattress. Gentle, like a hand from below, testing the surface. I couldn't scream. I couldn't do anything but wait. Eventually it stopped. But now the bed frame creaks every few seconds, like someone underneath rocking gently. I'm not sure how long I have. or what the end game is. But the apartment is changing faster now. Doors appear and vanish. My closet leads to the hallway sometimes. The fridge hums in Morse code. I don't speak Morse, but I looked it up once. It was spelling the same thing over and over. He's here. I've stopped fighting. That's what it wants, I think. Surrender. To let go of the fear and just accept the new reality. I try to remember who I was before all this, but the memories blur. My parents' faces are foggy. My job, my hobbies, my apartment before. Gone. Sometimes I wonder if I ever existed outside this place. Maybe 6B was never a rental. Maybe I was always part of it, born from it, fed into it, a recycled soul on a loop, watching others knock, scream, vanish. Maybe the Polaroids are a collection, a record of past selves. Maybe the girl is me and I am her and we are the apartment. One endless echo, one broken mirror refracting itself across time. I've decided to go back into 6A. Not because I want to, because I must. The mirror's still there. I saw it from the corner of my eye this morning. The crack has spread, reaching like a web. And behind the glass, someone else waits. It looks like me, but it isn't smiling anymore. It's crying. I think it's the real me. The one who never made it out. I'm going in tonight. If I don't return, if you find this somehow, don't open the door, don't knock, don't listen. Don't look, just leave. And if you ever see an ad for apartment 6B, cheap, flexible lease, fully furnished, close your eyes, because the moment you look too long, it sees you too. I didn't plan on stepping into 6A again. It wasn't some moment of bravery or rebellion, no surge of defiance pushing me across the hallway. I think it was more like gravity, pulling me towards something I was always meant to face. When I turned the handle this time, the door didn't creak or resist. It simply opened, as though the apartment had been expecting me. I entered cautiously, half hoping it would be empty like before, just cracked walls and that grotesque mirror waiting quietly. But the space was different now. Bigger. Impossible. From the outside, C should be the same size as mine. Yet inside, it stretched endlessly. The walls were further apart, the ceiling higher, and instead of drywall or tile, the interior was lined with hundreds, no thousands, of mirrors. Different shapes, frames, conditions, some clean and glinting, others dusty and shattered. They covered every surface, layered atop one another, each reflecting a different version of the room. Or maybe of me. I saw myself standing dozens of times, but each reflection was just slightly off. One version blinked out of rhythm. Another had no mouth. One stood perfectly still while I moved. Another whispered something soundlessly against the glass. I backed up, trying to avoid their gaze, but I couldn't. The reflections pulled my attention like magnets, dragging my eyes to every surface. And in each one, I saw something I hadn't expected. Fragments of my past, playing out like films. My childhood bedroom. A beach I hadn't visited in a decade. My mother's funeral. Every mirror was a window to a moment I'd forgotten or buried. I felt them clawing for me, pleading to be remembered. But then the moments changed, became unfamiliar. Places I'd never been. People I'd never met. Versions of myself older, thinner, twisted. One mirror showed me lying in a hospital bed, tubes down my throat. Another showed me screaming inside a padded cell, blood smeared across the walls in chaotic symbols. Another showed me standing over Lena's body, hands drenched in crimson. I screamed and swung my fist at that one, but it didn't shatter, it laughed. The glass rippled like water. I stumbled back into something soft. A curtain, no avail. A black, translucent sheet hanging from the ceiling, hiding a corner of the room. My breath caught. I hadn't seen it until I touched it. And behind it the girl, blindfold gone. Eyes still hollow. She stood perfectly still, barefoot, in a white nightgown soaked at the hem. She didn't move, didn't blink. Her hands hung limp at her sides, but her head tilted toward me, as though she recognized something. I tried to step back, but the ground shifted beneath me, literally. The floor turned into a mirror. I was standing on my own reflection, but it wasn't mirroring me anymore. It was reaching up, fingers pressed against the underside of the glass, begging to be released. And then the room darkened. One by one, the other mirrors lost their light. Except one. The tall one at the far end. The one that had always been there. Its surface gleamed, silver and deep, like a pool of mercury. It beckoned me forward, and behind its surface stood someone who looked exactly like me. But it wasn't me. It wore my face like a costume, stretched over something thinner, longer, ancient. Its eyes were pits, its smile too wide, and it spoke. I didn't hear it through my ears. I felt it in my bones. "You came back," said voice vibrating through the room like a distant choir in reverse. "No, we finish." I turned to run. The door was gone. So were the walls. All that remained were the mirrors, floating like glass sheets in infinite space. I wasn't in 6A anymore. I was nowhere, or maybe between places. The reflection stepped forward, hand pressing against the inner surface of the tall mirror. Cracks spidered beneath its palm. "You let me watch. Now let me live," it said. I shook my head violently, screaming no, but the air was too thick, like moving through syrup. I tried to close my eyes, to shut it all out, but my lids wouldn't obey. I was being held open by something unseen, forced to witness, to see, and then it stepped through. It didn't climb or crawl. It simply passed, like smoke through gauze, and I felt it enter me, not into my body exactly, but into my mind, my memories, my thoughts, like someone else was now flicking through the pages of my identity. I collapsed. I don't know how long I was down there, but when I opened my eyes again, I was back in 6B, or something shaped like it. I say shape because things were off. The kitchen was on the wrong side. The couch was a different color, and the framed photo on the shelf wasn't of me. It was of the other me, the thing from the mirror, smiling, arms around people I didn't recognize. As I moved through the space, I noticed more details. Books I'd never owned. Clothes that weren't mine. Even my voice sounded different when I spoke, hollow, echoing. The mirrors reflected my shape, but none of them moved with me. They all just stared, still images of someone trying too hard to pretend. Then came the knocks, not on the front door, but inside the walls. 3 short taps. Then a pause. Then 3 more. And behind it, whispers, not words, just emotion. Hunger, and the humming returned, that sickly sweet lullaby. Only this time I was humming. I couldn't stop. I didn't know the tune, but my mouth moved on its own. I felt my face stretch into a smile I didn't feel. My hands moved without command. I cooked, I cleaned, I dressed. I opened the door when it knocked, and standing there wide-eyed and unsure was a new tenant. A young man holding a lease agreement, smiling nervously. "This is 60B, right?" he asked. I knocking him in. And in my head, behind my eyes, the real me screamed. Somewhere deep in the apartment, a Polaroid slid from the mail slot. It showed him standing in the doorway. On the back, in red ink, Next. I don't remember inviting him in. I don't even remember smiling. But the moment his foot crossed the threshold, the door shut behind him with a soft click that sounded too deliberate. I could still hear myself laughing, welcoming him, offering him tea, words I hadn't planned, hadn't chosen. They fell from my mouth like dust, rehearsed lines in a play I wasn't aware I was in. He looked around the apartment, unsure, his hands still on the strap of his backpack, eyes darting across the room. He commented on the layout, said it was exactly as the pictures showed online, maybe even nicer. He mentioned how cheap it was, almost apologizing for his good luck. I nodded in all the right places. But inside, I was trapped, still awake, still screaming. I could feel my presence buried under layers, like being stuck beneath ice, pounding against the surface while the body on top went about its day, smiling and moving like a puppet. The apartment was showing me what I'd become in fragments. Reflections in window panes, shadows with unfamiliar limbs, a voice that echoed slightly off-key. But he didn't notice. Not yet. He dropped his bag by the couch, started to unpack. I watched. Or rather, the thing wearing me watched, moving around the kitchen, offering help, talking about the building, the neighbors, all of it perfectly normal. But then, he asked about 6A. "The place across the hall," he said casually. "Looks like no one lives there. Does anyone?" I felt the smile twitch on my face. Not falter. Twitch like a reflex. "No," I heard myself say. "It's been empty for years." The boy nodded, accepting it without suspicion. But I could feel it then, the shift. The apartment noticed. It always noticed. That question marked him. The hallway lights flickered. Just a pulse. Barely there, but I saw it. The boy didn't. Later, as he explored the space, opening drawers, flicking switches, I watched from the armchair, still and smiling, while the walls breathed. Yes, they breathe. I hadn't noticed it before, but now it was obvious. The wallpaper rippled slightly, expanding and retracting as though lungs were embedded behind the plaster. The floorboards swelled and dipped with each exhale. This place wasn't just haunted. It was alive and hungry. Around midnight, he decided to go to bed. He asked about noise. If the building was quiet, I said yes. I lied. That night I sat in the living room while he slept. I didn't need to sleep anymore. The thing in me didn't require rest. It watched, it waited. And when 2:12 a.m. came, the ritual began. A creak from the hallway, the familiar shuffle, the drag of something soft across tile. Then the humming, sweet, childlike, melancholy. I didn't move, I couldn't. My head tilted on its own like a curious dog. The door to 6A slowly opened across the hall, just a crack. I heard him stir in the bedroom. "Sit up," Silence. I wanted to scream at him. Don't get up. Don't look. Don't follow it. But I couldn't. The voice inside me was buried beneath a thick silence, smothered. He stepped out of the bedroom, barefoot, rubbing his eyes. "Did you hear that?" he asked. I didn't answer. Or maybe I did. But it wasn't me. He moved toward the door. I heard him twist the knob. The hallway was darker than it should have been. It always was. He peeked out. I prayed he'd close it, lock it, hide. But curiosity is stronger than fear when you're young. And the apartment knew that. He saw the crack in 68's door, just like I had. He hesitated, then stepped out. I stood slowly, my joints stiff, mouth curling upward again. The door shut behind him. I didn't move to help. I couldn't. The apartment doesn't allow interference. It has rules, unspoken ones, but absolute. Once chosen, you become part of it. That's the bargain. Or maybe the punishment. I waited by the window. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Then 2. No sound from the hall. At sunrise, I opened the door. He was gone. So was 6A, just wall where it had been. Smooth, seamless, like nothing had ever been there. I returned to the couch and waited. I always wait. That's the role now. The host. The face. The lure. Every few days, a knock comes. Always someone new. Sometimes they're desperate. Sometimes excited. They never last long. A week. Maybe 2. The apartment bends itself around them, learning their shape, feeding on their hopes, twisting their memories. And then, one night, the door to 6A opens again. Even when it's not supposed to be there, it always opens. And I watch them disappear. I've seen dozens now. Some scream. Some don't. One woman scratched at the walls until her nails broke. Another left notes in the fridge, thinking they'd escaped the apartment's memory. They didn't. The fridge swallowed them. One man tried to burn the place down. The fire didn't spread. It only consumed him. And yet I remain. Because I didn't resist. That's the key. The more you fight, the more the apartment sinks its teeth into you. But if you yield fully, completely, it makes you part of the mechanism. A cog. A trap disguised as kindness. I am that now. When new tenants arrive, I welcome them. I hand them their keys. I smile. I lie. Sometimes I wonder if they see the cracks, if they sense the wrongness. But it doesn't matter. The building chooses. Not everyone ends up here. Only the ones who linger, who notice, who question. And when the mirror finally shows them the truth, it's too late. Like it was for me. The girl appears to them too. Always at different stages. For some, she's a whisper behind a curtain. For others, she walks freely through the apartment, blindfolded. Then not, but no matter when she arrives, she always leaves a gift. One final token. A photo. A word. A hum. For me, it was the reflection. For others, it's their own voice, played back in silence, mouthing things they've never said, or a memory that doesn't belong to them. It's her way of introducing what waits beyond the glass. What comes next? There's something deeper than the apartment, beneath it, behind it, outside of time. I've glimpsed it. The mirror doesn't just reflect. It connects. It's a doorway to a place with no floor, no sky, just shadows and laughter and hunger. I believe that's where the real me is now. Trapped on the other side. Watching. Screaming. Waiting for someone to switch places with. Because every cycle needs balance. One linters. That's the price. And when the trade completes, the next begins. Soon, another listing will appear. Cheap rent. Great location, no deposit. Apartment 6B. The same photos, the same description, the same too good to be true deal. And someone somewhere will click it. They'll smile thinking they found a steal. And when they sign, when they move in and see my face at the door, they'll believe it's just another neighbor. Friendly. Helpful. Until 2:12 a.m. comes. Until the humming starts. Until the mirror shows them what they really look like. And then they'll understand. Just like I did. The newest tenant was different. She arrived just after sunset with only one suitcase, dragging it up the stairwell herself even though the elevator had worked just fine for everyone else. Her name was Elise, I later learned, though I never asked. The apartment whispered it to me before she even knocked. I knew she'd come, they always do eventually, but there was something off. Not in the way she walked or spoke. She was polite, composed, seemingly unbothered by the building's creaks or the hallway's gloom. She didn't flinch when I opened the door to greet her, didn't comment on how the temperature dipped near 6A or how the walls seemed to exhale. She just smiled, and when I welcomed her into 6B, something in her eyes flickered, not with fear but recognition. She'd seen this place before, not the listing, not in photos. No, she'd seen this. The mirrors, the humming, the shadows stitched into the corners of the ceiling. She knew, but she didn't show it. She made tea, unpacked, even whistled while folding her clothes. She didn't ask about 60A. Didn't mention the odd smell that came from the vents at night. She simply existed in the space like someone returning home. That disturbed me, because no one returns to 6B. You fall into it. You are taken by it. You don't stroll in like you've been here before. On her second night, I saw her place something under the couch. A piece of black cloth. Folded. Soft. Familiar. I realized it was the girl's blindfold, the same one. She laid it down gently, almost reverently, like one would place a flower on a grave. Then she turned and stared directly at me.
Not past me, not near me, at me, through me. She saw me.
And for the first time since I had been claimed, I felt something move beneath the surface. A crack, hairline, barely there, but unmistakable. A fracture in the perfect shell that had become my life. She smiled again. Not kind, not cruel. Knowing. That night she didn't sleep. She walked through the apartment barefoot, humming her own tune. Not the girl's song. A different one. Something older. The mirrors responded. They trembled. They dimmed. I'd never seen that. Usually, they watch. They feed. But this time, they recoiled. She passed them and they rippled like oil, trying to avoid her reflection. I sat frozen on the couch, powerless to speak, to move. The thing inside me, the one that had worn my face for so long, had gone silent, coiled deep in the recesses of my mind like a spider retreating into a crack in the wall. Elise walked into 60A without knocking. The door didn't creak open this time. It swung open like it knew she was coming. The hallway lights pulsed violently, and the air turned sharp electric. I stood in the doorway, watching her vanish into the gloom. For the first time, the building didn't try to stop her. It didn't shift or warp or close her in. It watched, and so did I. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Time slips in this place like water through fists. I wanted to run, wanted to scream. But all I could do was wait. Then something new happened. The humming stopped. Silence. Pure heavy. Crushing. A silence that didn't just fill the air. It accompanied it. Breathe. Couldn't think. The mirrors on my wall turned black, not dark. Black. Void. And from inside 6A, there came a sound I'd never heard before. Shattering. Like 1,000 glasses exploding at once. Then light. Blinding, searing. Holy light erupted from the doorway, pushing me back with its weight. I fell, hit the floor, eyes burning, and in that moment, I heard them. Every soul the apartment had consumed. Every echo, every scream, every whisper, all at once, rising, crying out in one voice. And then, silence again. Real silence. Not the suffocating kind. The peaceful kind. The kind you get when something terrible has finally ended. I opened my eyes. The apartment was wrong. Or maybe right. It was clean. The mirrors were gone. The walls were still. The floor didn't breathe. I ran to the window. The city was there. Real. Not smeared or distant. Cars moved. People walked. Birds flew. I could hear them. The apartment was no longer folded into some pocket of unreality. It was back. And so was I. I staggered to the door and flung it open. The hallway. White. Sunlit. Clean. 6A stood wide open. Inside empty. A chair. A mirror. Both shattered. Ash coated the floor, but the circle was broken, scuffed away. The symbols no longer blood. In the center of the room lay a photo. I picked it up with shaking hands. Elise, standing in front of the mirror. Hands outstretched, but not touching it, pulling something out of it. Behind her, shadows burned. Her eyes were closed. Peaceful. On the back, only 2 words. She knew. I waited for her to return, but she never did. I never found her things. Not even the suitcase. It was like she'd never existed. But I remember, the building was different after that. For a while, people came and went. Normal tenants. Normal problems. I was no longer frozen. No longer a puppet. I braved. I left 60B eventually, moved far away, started again, but I never forgot, and I never passed a mirror without checking twice. Then last week I saw it, a listing online. Same photo, same words, same rent. Cozy 1BR, fully furnished, no deposit, unit 60B. But this time the address wasn't mine. It was in another city, another building. But the same photo, the same furniture, the same view, the same cursed ad. It had moved. The apartment had found a new place to nest. A new web. Elise hadn't destroyed it. She'd only severed its grip on one location. It couldn't be killed. Only displaced. And now it was waiting again. Hungry again. The cycle continues. Because someone will see the ad. Someone always does. They'll scroll past hundreds of listings and stop on that one. Because it's cheap. Because it's available. Because it's too good to be true. And when they sign, when they move in, when they close the door behind them, it will begin again. The mirrors will appear. The humming will start. The blindfold will return. And if they look too closely, if they stare too long into their own eyes, they'll see it. The shape beneath their skin, waiting to wear them, to speak in their voice, to smile with their teeth. And I'll know, because I'll feel the pull again, the whisper in the back of my mind. the cold breath on my neck, the call to come back, not to 6B, but to the thing behind it, because you never really leave, not completely. You are marked, a part of the cycle. The final photo still sits in my drawer, one I didn't take, of me. Today, older, tired, standing at my window. On the back, only one word: soon. Enjoyed the video? Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you never miss an update.